Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Todd. Yeah, got to do something about that.
Okay, you guys, so we had an issue. We were worried about this because we're videotaping this, and apparently cameras, this is a problem. But hey, I have a solution, Manny. Hang on. Is that better? Is that still not good? Okay. Thank you for laughing. There's a saying out there that laughter is more than a sound, it's a whole body experience. But tonight, I want to try to convince you that laughter is more than a sound, it's a whole body healing experience. So when you hear the punchline to a joke, your body ignites its center for higher thought, muscle function, emotion. Collectively, they conclude, that was funny. With that, 15 muscles in your face, around your cheeks, and your eyes begin to sporadically contract. Your body sends a signal to your brainstem. Sorry. Your body sends a signal to your brainstem. I needed you to laugh again. The headquarters for the lung function. The muscles in your diaphragm and your chest start to contract, and they push out all the oxygen that's in your lungs. So the wind slams into your windpipe and blows across your half-closed larynx. You start to spew out short, unrestricted vowel sounds. If your eyes think it's funny, your tear ducts activate and they start to water, while the exit of air from your lungs screams, "Give me oxygen." Your heart rate ramps up along with your blood pressure as your body forces out air, wonderful oxygen, to your lungs. Your muscles contract. I need another laugh. As laughter spreads from our face throughout our respiratory system and throughout the rest of our body. Your body then releases endorphins, which have a similar effect to drugs like morphine, which are responsible for euphoria. Your body also releases opiates that have a similar effect to the ones that are released during exercise. These opiates increase your tolerance for pain and reduce the stress hormone cortisol, which is responsible for depression. Within your immune system, you start releasing killer T cells, which are your body's natural defense against viruses, cancer, and other disease-causing cells. 1 in 4 Americans will die of heart disease this year. It's the leading cause of death for both men and women in the United States. So how can laughter help? Let me tell you about a little study that was done. These doctors got together and they did a little test. They started showing a movie that invoked laughter. And then they went at the end of the movie and they measured the arteries and the endothelium, which is a thin lining of your arteries. They measured that and found that those arteries dilated and it increased blood flow through your system. So they then took the same group of people and they showed them a movie that created mental stress. And they went back and they measured again their arteries and their endothelium, and they found out that the opposite happened, that vasoconstriction happened, which means it's a constriction of the arteries. So again, laughter is more than a sound, it's a full body healing experience. 1 in 3 Americans suffer from high blood pressure. Doctors tried an interesting experiment. What they did is they went to 3 different senior centers back east. And they did a little test with the senior citizens that were there. They did 1 hour of laughter yoga with the senior citizens. And I'll tell you more about laughter yoga later. And at the end of the laughter yoga, they measured their blood pressure. And what they found on average on all the participants is that the systolic number was reduced by 10 points on average, and the diastolic number was reduced by 5 points on average. And this was consistent across all 3 centers, 3 distinct centers. That was consistent. So again, I suggest that laughter is more than a sound. It's a whole body healing experience. 1 in 10 people suffer from diabetes. When you get to age 65, that number goes to 1 in 4. So let me tell you another little bit of research. some doctors did another study, and what they did is they had a group of participants eat a meal, and then they had them listen to a 40-minute lecture. And at the end of the lecture, they measured their blood glucose level. And they found that the blood glucose had increased by 6.8 milligrams per deciliter. So the very next day, they took the very same group of people, fed them the very same meal, and then sent them to watch a 40-minute stand-up comedy routine. And then again, they measured their blood glucose. And the blood glucose, instead of raising 6.8, only raised 4.3 milligrams per deciliter. Researchers found that this was statistically significant. Again, I suggest, laughter is more than the sound. It's a full-body healing experience. 1 in 5 people suffer from arthritis. Again, when you get over 65, that number drops to 1 in 2. So let me tell you a little story about a man named Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins was born in June of 1915. As he grew up, he had a desire to be a journalist. So he went to the University of Columbia and studied journalism. He successfully got his bachelor's degree, went on to have a career in journalism, but at the age of 49, he was diagnosed with a life-threatening version of arthritis. His doctor told him that only about 1 in 500 people fully recover from this type of arthritis. Now, this would have been back before they had internet to research this, but he did what all of us would do. He started researching it and say, how can I beat these odds? And he tried a whole bunch of things, but there were 2 key things that he did that helped him. Number 1 is he started taking large doses of vitamin C. One of the problems he had with this arthritis, as you can imagine, it was very painful to sleep at night. So the second thing he did was that he started watching 10 minutes of funny video at night. And what he found is that if he watched about 10 minutes, he could go 2 hours of pain-free sleep. And if he woke up in the middle of the night still in pain, or woke up to pain again, he would get up, he'd watch another 10 minutes of video, and that would give him about another 2 hours of pain-free sleep. And he kind of continued this therapy to a point, led a relatively pain-free life. His experience was so profound that he ended up writing a book on it called Anatomy of an Illness. So again, I suggest, laughter is more than a sound. It's a whole-body healing experience. 1 in 10 people suffer from depression. And there's an interesting thing with depression, because with depression, what they found is that people that are depressed obviously don't laugh as much as people that don't suffer from depression. But they also found that the inverse is true, that the more, if you can get someone that's depressed to laugh, it alleviated some of the effects of depression. It also created more connections to people around them, and laughter is contagious, and so it also made them feel like laughing more, and again alleviated the effects of depression. So again, I suggest laughter is more than a sound. It's a full-body healing experience. So I'm going to tell you 5 things that you can do when you leave tonight, things that you can do to laugh more and have more humor in your life. The first one is be like a kid. Be around children. Be childlike. Children laugh, on average, over 400 times a day. Adults, 5. So, be more like a child. Be around children. Be childish sometimes. And you'll learn to laugh a little more. The second thing is surround yourself with positive people. We've all heard the thing, misery loves company. And isn't it true, if you have a bad mood, I don't know, there's something good that we enjoy about spreading it. But surround yourself with positive people, people that will make you laugh. Again, when you're in groups, your chances of laughter are higher. Number 3, watch funny movies. Listen to funny things. Read funny books. In Bakersfield right now, you can go to the AM radio 800, and it is comedy 24/7. Listen to comedy. Watch comedy. Read comedy. It's another option. It's another way to laugh. Number 4, learn to laugh at yourself. We take ourselves way too seriously sometimes, okay? There's a quote that I found on the internet that I thought was great. It said, learn to laugh at yourself and you will be entertained for the rest of your life. And I think that is true. Learn to laugh at yourself. And the last one, and I thought this one was the most interesting, is forced laughter. Now, I know that sounds silly, but when you force yourself to laugh, they found that if you force yourself to laugh for 1 minute, there were effects on your body for up to 1 or 2 hours after that forced laughter. The latest example of that is something called laughter yoga, and I made a reference to it before. And the man that came up with this, he's an Indian physician. His name is Madan Kataria. And he's the one that kind of started the laughter yoga movement back in the 1990s. And what's interesting about this is how it works. In a group, maybe in the park or in a room, and they start with just some breathing exercises. And then they kind of start some cheerful talking is the way I understand it. And then they go into a phase of forced laughter. And as they're in a group like this, this forced laughter, after a period of time, they're genuinely laughing. Now, I heard this and I thought, man, I should get that group at Renegade Talks to do a forced laughter session. But I changed my mind. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make you do a forced laughter session. But I do want to tell you one last story about a lady named Diane. Diane was diagnosed with severe depression. The depression was so bad that she contemplated suicide. She was on $400 a month worth of medication. She was watching TV and she came across laughter yoga. So she looked into it. She thought anything might help. And so she looked into the laughter yoga. She started it, went and started participating. And within 2 months, she was off of 80% of her medication. And within just a few more months after that, she was off of all of her medication. Friends say she looks wonderful and great at the age of 64 and as healthy as ever today without depression. So again, I say laughter is more than a sound. It's a full body healing experience. Thank you.